My name's GuykesTV. I've been a professional bike tester for 21 years. And today, I'm at Coed y Brenin Trail Centre, riding the beast route with BKXC and a bunch of pretty vocal sheep. And I'm riding two bikes today. The orange, stage 5, and stage 6. Both 29ers. Stage 6 has one 60mm fork, one 50mm travel. Stage 5, one 35mm travel at the back and a 140mm fork. So, on the stage 5, which is the 135mm rear end, 140mm front, you know, and it's a single pivot bike, and that comes with certain cynical statements from other people. You know, they're obsolete. How can you possibly have a bike designed millions of years ago? But when I was trying to describe it to Brian, it's like nobody goes up to crocodiles and goes, "You're a million years old, you're obsolete, you could be bearing live young, not putting eggs out." They're still top of the damn food chain, and oranges are still top of the trail bike food chain. If you just want something super tough and involving and playful, and this stage 5 has got that in spades. I've actually not ridden the orange 29s before. It's a bit worried that back end would be obviously flexy, especially now there's quite a lot of metal cut away to make them lighter, but if it is, certainly not getting in the way of the ride. That cut down 36mm fork on the front, 140mm travel in a fork that can be configured to 180. That is so on point, especially with 30mm race face rim, making that minion front tyre, that 2.3, nice and square. So there's plenty of capacity in it, plenty of support through the sidewalls, and you got those big 800mm rental bars. Yes, you hustler. 50mm stem, so slightly longer stem than the stage 6 as well, but all just hangs together so well. And for a mid-travel bike, the angles are still pretty slack and feisty. 66.5 head, 74 seat. Such a great bike for hopping and popping around on. At that moment you G out, you just feel so much rich feedback through your feet. You can tell exactly what that Max's tyre carcass is doing, exactly what grip you've got left, what the bike's going to do next. And the way you move and pump is just amplified by that single swing arm, or whatever you do, the brake levers, or however you put the power into it. And this is 500 grams lighter for the complete bike than the stage 6 when it's like this. And I'm feeding in power, chopping and changing around, little uphill bursts. Stage 5 is where it's at. Okay, finally managed to get the stage 6 up Brian. He's been loving it so much. So, what do we notice straight away? Tyres are a bit sturdy, you can feel that. The DHR on the back doesn't roll as quickly. It's a high roller. Chunkier wide trail carcass, 2.4 on the back, 2.5 on the front. But that means, yes, already I can feel there's more grip and a more muted trail feel. Tyres are sucking up more static. You've got more shock. Travel, 57mm stroke, around 50mm stroke. And it's a longer back end, 450 over 445. Because it's the split design, it actually feels stiffer, even though it's longer. Same super low 335, bottom bracket height. They haven't brought it any higher to offset the extra travel. Still a ground hugger. Woo! Oh yeah. Slacker head angle, degree slacker, you can feel that. 1250, full 50mm longer in the wheelbase. The bike just feels a lot more settled. I mean, the stage 5 is pretty ratty, but this is a full-on downhill beast in terms of the weight sticking down over here. And what's really interesting about this 6 is that there's been a couple of sections of downhill, but mostly climbing coming up. And I've been playing about with the shock, with all the compression damping and the pressures. And despite the fact I'm now running similar sag and actually lower tyre pressure and much lower shock pressure, this bike definitely feels stiffer and more locked in under pedalling. you know, just even the smallest indicators, like this saddle feels firmer, upshifts, it's more of a clunk. So while the tyres are definitely slower rolling, it's half a kilo heavier, so it needs more effort. It actually feels the sharper and more pedal positive bike, the more aggressive overall, and you know, that fits directly in with the usage spectrum that Orange put out for it. This is their burliest bike, short of a downhill bike. And you can actually feel that when you start attacking the downhill sections as well. It's definitely the more downhill, big hit orientated bike, the more racy feel. Hasn't got that kind of cat-like squirm and flex that was so obvious on the 5 as I'm throwing my hips around. It's much more business-like, much stiffer, much more aggressive. And neither's right, neither's wrong. It's just interesting. They get such very different feels. What look like very, very similar platforms. That's the brilliant thing about these live trail reviews. I am thinking this and saying it as I'm going along. And already, very clear, for a bit of tweaking and tuning, but both great bikes. And both will suit very different riders. This holds the line very, very tightly compared to the Stage 5, but I can definitely see why Brian's hands are getting beaten about more on this. Ironically, despite the fact it's got more treble on that 36 fork, and it's got the same bar, my hands are already feeling it. But if you're watching where the front wheel's going on this, I can totally put it where I want it, which is really useful on trail I haven't ridden for God knows how long. You're going to have to do more with the shock to find a sweet spot. It's not quite as forgiving. Definitely worth getting the little X2 tool. Not least because it's about the coolest tool you can buy for trail use. But because it's a shock that really rewards some tuning. Maybe add some volume bands because it's a bit more linear naturally. But that long wheelbase and those slack angles, then you can really carry that speed. And the whole bike is so stable, so it's great to have that little short stem. And then the way it's pumping off the back side, you can't really see that or feel that obviously, but I can. There's some real drive out the back of it for attacking trails like this. There, I can see why Brian was carrying so much speed on it. It is an absolute freight train when you do get it set up correctly. Another big day planned out tomorrow on Snowdonia. Gonna hit there early on the dawn raid, see how stages 5 and 6 do on the biggest mountain in Wales. Day 2 of our little Orange comparison adventure. We're up on top of Snowdon. Come here early doors before the curfew. It is horribly windy, so I don't know how much I'm gonna get down before I scare myself stupid. So apologies, it's windy and I'm windy. See how it goes. Stage 5, dropping in. Right, I'm loving the stage 6 again this morning. Okay, rolled through that better than I was expecting. I hate exposure. Glad to be on such a sure-footed and helpful bike here. Brian's just going. It's that extra bit of travel on the 6. Pulling away every time I look up. Not that I'm not loving the 5. He's uncatchable on that thing.
Got a punch here.
Oh no. And for sure you can go for more neutral suspension action. You know, there might be a bit of bounce if you stand up pedaling. You don't have the lockout on. But just suck it up, seriously. It's the ride quality. It's so visceral, so vibrant, just so freaking fun. To pump, to pull the stupid body English, to hang your ass out, to do all the stupid shapes you can. Because this bike responds so well to all that kind of, you know, dynamic riding. Woo. Just loves it, just thrives on it. The rowdier you get, the rowdier Oranges get. And when it's got the extra speed of the 29er wheels, whoa, The rims are taking a beating down here. But not only is this just such a brilliant, involving bike to play on, you've just got all that orange signature toughness. You've got that triple powder coated frame, taking an absolute beating over the years. Got that single pivot bearing, super tough, easy to replace, easy to find replacements for if it ever does go wrong. And just the fact, you know, the bikes are so well quality checked in the factory before they go after heat treating, after heat treating, and then back in the factory. Just alignment checks all the way. Because that single pivot means they can't just get away with slack tolerances. Everything has to be totally on point if it's going to work together. And that's why it feels so smooth, why they last so well. This is some geological adventuring going on now. Appreciate the extra volume, that XP shock. Just gives it a little more carry more. In terms of speed, in terms of the way the damping stays consistent. Oh, hell yeah. That definitely rolls a lot better. You can stay off the brake. Whoa, way! That was a lucky moment. You know, this stage 5 seems to generate a lot of luck today. Definitely got away with writing down more stuff than I probably should have done on an average dice roll. And maybe it's that flexibility in the rear end that just kind of lets it find its own way. I know Brian's been hammering, but you know, he's the one who's had the puncture. This is the more forgiving ride. And then the lower slopes. This thing's awesome. Really coming alive. Whew. Yeah, that's the line. Ah, I love a bike that makes you feel like a really good rider. And that is definitely the case on this stage 5. Halifax is hauling today. 1.4mm, hand folded, hand welded, and handsomely well adapted to seriously rocky trails out here in Snowdonia. So, that's 2 epic days in Wales on 2 epic bikes. Are in stage 5 and stage 6. Share a lot of similarities, that practicality, that toughness, that UK hand-built quality, but also surprisingly different. 6 very much the hard punching hardcore racer. 5 more of a long leg, still a hardcore trail bike, but slightly more forgiving, slightly easier to set up, slightly lighter. So pick your orange. Either way, you're going to get a belting ride.